Hi, good morning, Malcolm Nance.
Good morning, Steffi.
I have to say, obviously, this was reported in the news. The military has confirmed it, but you're always right, and you're always right first. You had tweeted, "Why let the spy balloon in our space?" One, it was 18 and a half miles up, almost in space. Two, it sends a data link to PRC. We can intercept that and learn what China knows. We can jam it so they see nothing new. Three, the collection system is ours and can reconstruct it. They lose the asset, and we win the spy game. Thank you. And this was all later confirmed, correct?
Yes, absolutely. This is ridiculous because it can only come out to one of two variables. The Chinese weather balloon was an actual weather balloon, but it had such a huge instrument package under it, the size of 3 school buses. And people go, well, I saw you laugh at package.
I'm sorry. Huge instrument package just made me laugh like Beavis and
You will never see a huge Chinese instrument package.
And you would know about having a huge instrument package. What?
Stop it!
Go ahead.
Yeah, well, because micro-miniaturization. So anyway, these very big collection systems, which are large in their size, are designed to substitute for high-altitude space-borne satellites. And so I heard a lot of people like, well, why are they using balloons? Well, if we're not paying any attention to them, and they've flown a couple of them over or near U.S. space, first off, weather balloons go over the United States all the time.
Yeah.
These things are literally almost in space. So the Chinese probably thought, hey, we can do better collection at lower altitude, less interference from, the stratosphere, taking imagery through space, better collection of signals because you're lower down and you can hear signals. And the Americans probably aren't going to do anything because Trump didn't do anything 3 times.
Right, exactly. You were retweeted someone that said, on the 3 previous balloons over the U.S., I will tell you we did not detect those threats, and that's a domain awareness gap we have to figure out, said General Glenn Van Herk. The IC became aware of that after the fact, though, through additional means of intel collection, he says. And you just said, or they could just look up. Apparently it flew literally like over Mar-a-Lago.
Well, there is such a way that, what we call offset collection, and which is you don't fly over Montana, you fly over Canada along the border of the United States. And as your collections platform has a view shed, as it looks down, it could cover most of the United States, right?
Yeah.
Depending on which your cameras are set at or your collections antennas.
Yeah.
We probably learned that this thing had flown over 3 times because it had a unique data link. We went back, scrubbed it, and found that data link was active 3 times near the United States.
What is your take on it during the Trump administration? I mean, none of it makes them all good. Either, they're saying, it's the right wing is saying, if the general didn't tell him because he's too dangerous, that's treason. And then, or if they just missed it, it's incompetence. Don Jr.
I wish these morons would get the Game of Thrones definition of treason out of their head, right?
Right.
It isn't whatever, Lord Farquhar decides that day. It is actually the only defined crime in the Constitution. And it's very interesting because they're claiming Biden is so aligned with President Xi. We also know that he begged President Xi for assistance in hacking the election. He said it out loud before the 2020 election. He would take assistance from anybody, including China.
Yeah.
His daughter has, trademarks there. He makes money there. Don't believe anything Trump has to say about anything when it comes to, one, intelligence, because he flat out refused to read anything.
Right.
And 2, if it wasn't briefed to him in, little picture puzzles on a dry erase board with cartoon figures, he wouldn't care about it.
Well,
the only intelligence he cared about was that he could, in the end, steal to use against people, or what he probably thought was to sell.
But Malcolm,
that, by the way,
Malcolm, obviously the Biden administration had to brief the Trump administration on how they missed this 3 times. What do you make of that?
Well, it really does involve the mindset of the commander-in-chief and the collections priorities of the organization that he created. And I suspect what we're going to find out is that there was that domain gap that they're talking about. The domain was Earth to space between 50,000 and 50,000 feet and, 100,000, 200,000 feet, because it's not space, it's not a satellite, it's not an airplane, it's a balloon. And weather balloons, high altitude weather balloons happen all the time. Now, as a collection targeting vehicle, then that domain would have been covered by who? Air Force or the newly minted, chaos-inducing Space Force? And that's probably why we missed it, is because we were too busy splitting up the organization that was doing this, the Air Force, and turning it into space cadets.
Oh, my God. Maria Bartiromo said, did it drop and disperse surveillance products powered by solar energy to allow unlimited surveillance? And you said apparently the Chinese spy balloon story could get stupider, much stupider. Maria Bartiromo leads the charge asking, was it a spy pinata dropping mini spy drones?
That's exactly what she described was a spy pinata, right? And I don't. What movie was that? Where monsters came in New York City and then dropped all those little extra monsters everywhere.
That was Cloverfield. Cloverfield.
Yeah, Cloverfield.
Yeah, and that's what she described. And I thought, really, spy pinata? It's not bad enough that you had this thing up there in space. One, you would have seen them. All right. Like I said, you want to do intelligence collection, you want to do open source intel, look up.
Yeah. We're in the movie Don't Look Up, I guess, during the Trump administration.
Don't look up. You might actually.
And also, a couple of right-wingers said that we wouldn't have known it was there unless a couple of yahoos in Montana saw it.
Oh, my God. We do, in fact, have these things called radar. The question is, when we track them, we have to determine point of origin. That balloon may have originated in India. It may have been part of a science experiment. These Mylar balloons, you can buy one of those for a few $1,000s and put giant payloads up into space all the time. We're just figuring it out now, probably because it had a data link that was transmitting up to a space satellite. And we were like, whoa, that's Chinese, y'all. Somebody called Chinese division at NSA. And see if they have any telemetry on this dang thing.
Yeah.
And they'll go, we saw this 3 times over the last few years, but that was Space Command's job, so we didn't bother with it.
Yeah. Malcolm, let's talk about the speech last night, which I just thought was, amazing. 72% of Americans thought it was great. I mean,
that was a great speech.
Yeah.
It really was a great speech. And I mean, even with, forget all the shouting. That just made the speech better.
I know. Yeah. I love it.
Come on. And, he says, I like it when there's a conversion, like I've just converted all to the way I think. And then and Marjorie Taylor Greene coming in there dressed as the Chinese spy balloon.
Yep.
That was absolutely ridiculous. Her first spy balloon collar around her head. And then, she wanted to be the one to shout out liar. And then she literally gave the game away. I tweeted today, Anatomy of an Ambush. Yeah. This was brilliant. If you haven't watched that segment of him flip it on them and make every Republican stand for seniors, they all stood and then goes, hey, we're not going to cut Social Security, right? They're already standing. They're already laughing.
Well, we could. That was also, we don't normally have you on for fashion news, but was it more the white fur? Was that more like Russian oligarch wife, or was it more Desperate Housewives of Atlanta?
That was full Svetlana. I mean, the only thing she was missing was 6-inch heels and a Maserati. All right. But I'm quite surprised that she wore all white. I thought she would have been wearing her traditional Dalmatian. And still shouting for the puppies. But
puppies!
I've got to give it to the only person that can outdo her horrific wardrobe was Kirsten Sinema.
Dear God. Yes.
Came as a velociraptor.
Yes, it was a daffodil inserted in a Georgia O'Keeffe vagina.
I did see comparisons to that lizard monster that spit at Wayne Brady from Jurassic Park.
Out in this, oh my God, it was horrible. But the thing is, that's the entertaining part. That and the George Santos being chewed out by Mitt Romney.
Yeah.
That's all entertainment. That State of the Union was strong. And
Yeah.
I was literally cheering and standing up at the end of it. I was like, oh my God, he's kicking their butt. And they're liking it.
Yeah.
How many times did Kevin McCarthy have to stand? I don't think he stood at all, all in the previous State of the Union.
When he said democracy, when he said America's a democracy, I'm like, you can't stand for that? Okay. Right?
Oh, but he got him at least 10 times.
Yeah, absolutely. Malcolm, we could not be more excited that you're going to be live all 3 hours in studio on Friday. And, of course, we will have John Fugel saying Glenn Kirshner and Frangela. That is going to be a par and a tay, separately and together.
Why am I going to be in Los Angeles?
Because you will be doing Real Time with Bill Maher. That'll be Friday night, taping that here in Los Angeles.
This is a good time to watch Real Time with Bill Maher. If you haven't, I'll be the main guest, and we will be talking about Ukraine.
Hey all, Glenn Kirshner here. I hope you'll join me on my new audio podcast, Justice Matters. I'll be using my 30 years as a federal prosecutor and Army JAG to unpack, break down, and explain the legal issues of the day, particularly where the legal intersects with the political. Please look for Justice Matters with Glenn Kirshner wherever you generally get your podcasts.